name's Quinn. My company is called My World. I'm here today to talk to you about what you do after you go to a conference and hear lots of interesting stuff. Okay? Now you come home, you're quite confused. I can see you maybe being a bit confused at the moment to say, why am I going to listen to you? So I set up a company called My World about 6 years ago, and the reason I set it up was so that we could make lives easier for people who venture into business. But before I set up My World, I worked for a rather large financial organisation in Edinburgh in Scotland. The biggest thing that I did there was I took a team of 12 up to a team of 300, which sounds easy to say in one sentence. Why did I do that, I hear you say? We launched a new product on a new system, and we centralised new business administration at the same time. Okay, there was a lot of things going on, there was a lot of people to sort, there was a lot of work to organise. Was the product a success? Absolutely. It went to #1 in the financial market, and we had a phenomenal increase in new business of 1,000%. 1,000%. We took the proposal count from 500 a week to 5,000 a week. It was absolutely fantastic. So fantastic that what happened? We got sold. So my next big job was to reduce the number, because we had 300. How do we get the new business administration out of the Edinburgh office so that it could close? So at that point I had training and recruitment teams in Glasgow, and I also had a team training out in India, and we were able to close the office. Okay. Some of you might actually have had a part in that phenomenon, because the product that I'm talking about is a self-assurance range, and those of you within the financial sector will be well aware, because it kind of turned the market round at the time with the introduction of critical illness a few years back. But life wasn't always so exciting for me. Before that, my first job was when I was 16. I became 16 on my birthday, and I went down the road to see what was available. I ended up with a breakfast job in a local hotel, making tea and toast for breakfast. And I did that kind of at the same time I discovered discos and late nights. And my other discovery was late nights and early mornings don't always mix that well. Okay, so I've had quite a varied past, if you like to say. Coming back to today, what a lot of clients tell me is that I have a great knack of taking something that seems quite complicated and breaking it down into something that's quite simple. And for me, that's what life's all about. How can we make things easy? How can we make things simple? And how can we have some fun while we're doing it? Recently, a guy came to me and said, I've got this problem, or a challenge as we like to call it, and we broke it all down, and he went away saying, this is absolutely brilliant, I now know exactly what I need to do, why I need to do it, and I'll be able to do it no problem at all. So, would you like me to share a simple 4-stage process with you guys that you can do when you come back from something like a conference where you've had a lot of information? Of course you do. Right, my friendly flip chart here. 4 stages, so we represent that in a block. And who better to start with? A. Right. So what does A stand for? Right. So before you look at the information that you've got, what you've got to have clear in your head is what you're aiming for in life. What do you want out of life? Okay? And that can be represented by lots of different things. Okay? For example, my son is saving up for a Lamborghini. He wants a Lamborghini. He's 16 years old. He wants a Lamborghini by the time he's 21. Who am I to say that that's not possible? Yeah. Some people quite often look for money. Yeah, I want money. What I want you to think is, why do I want the money? What's it for? Yeah, I recently spoke to a guy who was in business. He'd been working for about 9 years. He wasn't able to have a holiday because he felt that he couldn't leave the business. But if he could, what he wanted to do was take his daughter to Disney. So it gave him a driver to get the business organised, get the business focused, so that he could actually do what he wanted to do. So don't just think in terms of money. Think about what you want, why you want it, okay, and when you want it. The reason that you think about why you want it is that's what will give you a passion to get out of bed on a Monday morning and drive you towards what it is that you want. And when you want it will enable you to get up on the day that you say you've got a deadline for, and you'll be able to measure whether you actually got it or you didn't. Going back to the Lamborghini, my son will be able to get up on his 21st birthday and he'll look out the window and there'll either be a Lamborghini there or there won't. And if there is, it'll be him that's put it on the drive and not me. Okay? So aims. What do you want? When do you want it? But more importantly, why is it really important to you? Okay? Next one, just to keep it simple, is a B. Okay? What does B stand for? I think B stands for bridge. Okay? We know where we want to go. What we want to do now is pull back and see where we are now. If you can imagine yourself standing on the edge of a stream and there's quite a busy torrent coming down here, the water's coming down at a fair pace, you want to get from one side of the stream to the other because you know where your aim is, you know exactly where you want to be on that other side of the bridge. Now if you jump into the water, it can be deep, the force of the current can move you around, so rather than going straight to where you want to be, you'll get pulled and affected by the force of the water, which is analogy for life, because that's really what happens to us. Imagine if somebody had been there before and they had built a bridge over that water. How much easier would it have been for you to get there? Okay, so think about the bridge that you want to build from where you are now to where you want to be. And doing this exercise gives you kind of two things, right? It lets you have a real clear focus of where you've come already, which lets you celebrate where you are, because it's not a good or a bad thing. You are exactly where you need to be right now, and don't forget that. And don't start thinking, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done something else. You are exactly where you should be right now. Okay, so where's your starting point, where are you now, and where are you going to go? Okay, then let's go to C. Right. We know where we are, we know where we want to be. You know what? We've got lots of options. We could do something one way, we could do it another. We could do it some other way. If you've got three people that all want the same thing, because we're all individual and how we do things are different, then there's not a right and a wrong way to get there. There is a right way, however, for you to get there. And it's important that you do this discovery so that you can actually work out what you can do and what's the best option for you. Right? Now, we all know that thinking is important, and thinking is where everything starts from. Everything in this world started with a thought. And what we're asking you to do today is just have some thoughts. Okay? Once you've done that, A, B, C, D, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because without action, the thoughts will stay as thoughts and they won't manifest into anything that's real. And what we want is real stuff. Success comes from doing. Okay? People that do nothing get nothing wrong. Right? So don't worry about doing something that might not work. All you've done is maybe found a way not to do something. You know, Edison, when he was doing research for his light bulb, he discovered more than 1,000 ways not to produce a light bulb. And the question is, how many of us would have given up long before that? Okay? So, what do you want? What have you got? What could you do? And what will you do? A, B, C, D. Could it be simpler? No. Okay? Now, what I don't want is a big list of things that you're going to do and being quite overwhelmed in here. I want you to break it down and think, if I want to get here, the thing that I need to start doing is this. So I just want you to focus on one thing, just one thing, that if you do, hopefully today, because when's a better time to start? Right now. So what one thing are you going to do today that will give you what you want, when you want, in your the time scale that you've decided that you want to go for it. Okay. So simple, yes. Possible, yes. Can you do it? Yes. When do you start? Now. A wee thing before we move on. I want to just talk about this line. Okay. Because I've asked you to think about what you want. Sadly, there's only 4% of the population that actually have a clear path and a clear idea of where they want to go. What does that mean? It means that 96% are either helping them get there or going round in circles. Have we ever had a time where we felt like we're going round in circles? Or is it just me? Yeah. So we know where we want, we know what we want, and we know the first thing that we're going to do to get it. But don't underestimate the power that lies below this line. Right? When you're back at school, and you were 5 years old, and the teacher turned round to you and said, what's 6 times 7? How did you feel? Before you knew the answer, or regardless whether you did or didn't know the answer, how did you feel? And most people, when I ask that question, say, I panicked. Right? I just have this wee panic. One, do I know what 6 times 7 was? I think it's 42, but I'm not sure if it's 42. If I say 42 and it's right, I'll feel okay. If I say 42 and it's wrong, I'm going to feel really stupid. So we have this inner dialogue going on all the time. Right? And then you say 42, and you breathe a sigh of relief because you're right. And if you hadn't said 42, you would have felt a bit silly. Yeah? And this is the thing that stops us all the time, the fear of feeling silly. So what we're doing down here is not jumping from a question to a quick answer. What we're doing is feeling quite comfortable in that space between this is what I want and this is what I need to do to get it. So what I want you to think about is the power below the line gives you an opportunity to explore different options, to discover maybe thoughts that you didn't have, and just to imagine what you could do with your life, because it's your life we're talking about here. Your work is a way to get you what you want in life. Okay? It's a means to an end. Right? So be comfortable in this space down here. Okay? A long time ago, a man sat on a park bench on a Sunday afternoon and he watched his kids play in the park. And he had a thought, and it was quite a profound thought. His thought was, wouldn't it be great if there was somewhere that the whole family could go and have fun together, rather than the adults sitting on the seats and the kids having fun? And that man, you may know, is Walt Disney. And what Walt Disney did was he bought a piece of land in California and he built Disneyland. Phenomenal place, families went, families enjoyed it, families left early sometimes, so he did some research into why people were leaving, because there was so much to do in a day that they weren't doing it all. And what he realised was the land they had bought was actually quite near a highway, and it had one of these monorail things going through it, and when people were on the monorail they would look out and say, oh, the highway's getting a bit busy, we better go. So what did Walt Disney do? He bought 47 square miles of land in a place called Orlando, Florida, and many of you will have experienced that place, because he didn't want them to go for a day, he wanted them to go for a holiday and not worry about getting home. Right? So when you look at Walt Disney, look at the films that he produced, look at the theme parks that he's done, look at our lives, there's been an impact on each and every one of us lives because of that man. It all started with him sitting on a park bench and having a thought. Okay. Another wee story I'd like to share with you before I wrap up. 50 people over the age of 90 were interviewed, and they were asked one simple question. If you had your life to live over again, what would you do differently? What would you do differently? And the top 3 answers to that were, I would laugh more, I would reflect more, and I would do more to leave a legacy. Right? We also risk more as well. So the top 3 were risk more, reflect more, and do more to leave a legacy. But I think we should laugh more as well, because laughter is what makes the world go round. Okay? So the question I have for you is, when you're 90 years old, in your rocking chair, watching the sunset go down, and you look back over your life, and you reflect on what you've done, will you be thinking about what you've not done and regretting it? Or will you be thinking about what you have done and celebrating the fact that you've lived a full life and you've taken action and you've done things, and you're not sitting there thinking about all the things that you could have done and meant to do and didn't quite get round to? So I'll leave you with that question. When you're 90 years old in your rocking chair, watching the sunset go down, your blanket over your knee, reflecting over your life, I hope that you look back and you maybe remember this wee model and when you started using it. And maybe today would be the day that turned your world around. Thank you very much.